Success is defined as much by a tangible achievement of a predefined goal as it is of its opposite, failure. The commonly held view is that failure is to be avoided because success is to be achieved, and both cannot coexist. Today, I'm here to prove that wrong. The business genius, woman 27, makes $500,000 a month after her hair care brand goes global during lockdown. The journey from a refugee center to becoming a successful businesswoman, just to name a few headlines written on me in the past year. I think I'm not wrong saying that if I would ask you to summarize those headlines into one word, it would be success. I grew up in Finland after my parents escaped post-communism Romania. It was my dad who was obsessed about the idea of pursuing a better future, and eventually we moved to Finland and were placed in a refugee center for years. I was 5 back then. Even though it sounds dramatic, I had a very happy childhood. I was excited about everything: the new country, the new nature, the new international friends, and even learning a new language. Regardless, I was always a dreamer. I dreamed about something better, something bigger. Sometimes that was becoming the next Britney Spears, and sometimes becoming a successful businesswoman. I remember my mom always telling me to get my feet back on the ground because those were too big dreams to achieve, and eventually I will be disappointed at life. However, I never stopped dreaming. I've accepted the fact that I will not become Britney Spears anytime soon, though. Growing up with a talented, smart, and beautiful 1.5-year older sister made me feel very weak. I was constantly comparing myself to her and questioning what have I done wrong and what can I do to become better. School was never too challenging for me, yet I wasn't specifically good at anything. At least that's how I felt. In the 5th grade, in the arts class, we were given the task to draw our own hand holding a pen. I remember drawing it very fast, and while the teacher was walking around in the class giving individual advice to everyone, he stopped at my desk, took the drawing in his hand, and raised it saying, "Kids, this is a great example of a good outcome." I remember feeling very embarrassed because I knew that I cannot draw, and that nice drawing only happened by mistake. So, while he was using my drawing as an example, I knew that I was misleading my classmates. I wanted to succeed so badly that when I did, I couldn't accept it. I always struggled with the fact that I was missing a passion. I enrolled a business uni because I was so lost with what I wanted for my future and thought that business school would at least not close any future doors. All I knew was that I wanted to be successful. I became obsessed about that idea. During my last uni years, I became very anxious as I hadn't defined my passion. And I didn't know how on earth can I become successful if I don't have a passion towards anything specific. As I still couldn't define the passion, I decided that maybe instead of trying to be so specific, maybe instead of trying to define my passion, maybe I should rather ask myself what is really important for me in life. And while thinking about that question over and over again, the thing that popped into my mind was freedom. I dreamed about being free in terms to where I work, how I work, when I work, and with who I work with. That brought me to the realization that that's not achievable as an employee. So the only way I could achieve that is to become an entrepreneur. So back then, I was writing my master thesis while working full-time in a marketing company. I remember being so scared of leaving my secure job and taking the step towards the unknown without having any security that what I will do next will take me anywhere near of being free, let alone successful. The months leading to resigning, I kept asking myself, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that I will fail. And failing cannot be worse than not trying, I thought. And I was right. So I started my entrepreneurial journey with the idea that I will allow myself to fail because failing cannot be worse than not trying. Well, let me tell you one thing. Accepting the idea of failure is one thing, but accepting failure when you actually experience it is quite another. Little did I know what failing even was, let alone how much failing I was going to experience. The bigger the company grew, the bigger became the failures. To this day, I'm more than thankful to that naive me, because if I would have known what a rocky journey I was about to enter, I would have never started. When my business started growing fast, it catched media attention. A young woman who started off with nothing grows her business overnight. Catchy story. All the headlines and all the articles were highlighting the success I've had. And while they were all true, and while I was very happy that I could potentially inspire other young women to pursue their dreams, I still felt, again, like that little girl in the 5th grade in the arts class. I felt like I was misleading people again. I was misleading because in reality, on a daily level, I was failing 9 times out of 10. Yet the media only highlighted the successes. Would have I talked more about the failures, they would have written about it. But I didn't, because I thought that in order to be inspiring, I need to talk about the successes. The daily failures will not inspire anyone. However, it wasn't until I started fundraising for the first time at the beginning of this year that I truly understood the powerful value of failing. The goal was to raise 2 million to get my business to the next level on its way of becoming the globally leading home salon beauty brand. Given what I knew back then, I thought that that cannot be that challenging. I entered an entirely new world, convincing myself and the others around me that not only was my company ready, but also that I was more than ready. To be honest, I think that the challenge of fundraising hasn't been widely discussed enough, and I hope that by sharing my experience, it will raise awareness. In January this year, I started my 4-month journey of rejections, or failures, if you will. I lived in a constant state of rejection. I spent months jumping from an investment call into another, pitching around like a maniac, desperately trying to convince everyone that I was a perfect version of a CEO, just to be told no. Not once, not twice, but 36 times to be more precise. Well, to be completely frank, I did get an investment eventually, but it wasn't anywhere near the amount I was initially set to raise. So when you're trying to convince those investors, you're not trying to convince them about your business. You're trying to convince them about yourself as the leader of the business. So when the product is yourself, it becomes harder and harder to accept those rejections without feeling like you're not enough. As determined as I was about raising money and taking myself and my business to the next level of success, all the rejections made me numb. I didn't feel much. I went on autopilot and didn't stop until I had to. One day, after yet another rejection, I realized that my perception of success had led me to the wrong direction. I wasn't there for my business. My business was there for me to fulfill my perception of success. That was the moment that I realized that I have to let go. So I gave up. I allowed myself to cry for a day. And I wasn't sad because I didn't get the investment. I was sad because I felt like I failed at succeeding. After I had processed my human emotions, I realized that getting rejected by those investors was the best thing that could have happened to me in that moment, because all those rejections taught me 5 very important lessons about failing. And I'd like to share them with you today. 1, failing feels bad. Anyone who argues that is lying. It is painful to accept that you didn't get where you wanted. But as we all know, time always helps. So in my case, it took me one day to wipe off my tear, and the next day I was back on track, and this time stronger than before. 2, know when to let go, recover it fast, and make peace with it. Pushing hard and not giving up is important when you face the first setback, but understanding when to let go is even more important. As for 4 months, I was neglecting the growth of my business for the sake of convincing those investors that I was worth their time and money. My business lost its upwards direction it once had. Luckily, I understood that I need to let go before it was too late. 3, reflect back and learn. All the failing you experience can be a gift if you have the mindset of what can I learn from this experience. You need to understand that there is always a reason that led you to fail. It doesn't happen by chance. As much as you wish you could blame external factors, at the end of the day, it is you who failed. So don't victim up, but instead level up. Doing that, you will understand what you did or didn't do, and that in turn will teach you what you should or shouldn't do in the future in order to avoid the same mistake from repeating itself. I learned that securing an investment requires much more than just convincing that you have a validated business concept and that you are driven enough to take your business to the next level. You need to know your numbers. You need to have a crystal clear growth plan that doesn't leave any space to any questions. Well, in my case, I didn't fulfill the latter. And that's okay, because I know that next time I will. 4, speak about your failures. Remember that failing is humane. So there is no reason to be ashamed about it. Share your experience, speak about it so others can learn about it too. And last but not least, open your door to new failures. Don't make yourself immune. Because at the end of the day, when you stop failing, you stop succeeding. When I started my business, I thought that success is jumping from a great achievement to another, just to learn that success is actually the ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Now, I don't know where my life will take me. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow, and I certainly don't know if I'll ever achieve the goals that I've set for myself. But what I do know is that success doesn't happen without failure. So in the future, when you fail towards success. And fail knowing that you did the best you could in that moment, and next time you will fail better. Thank you.